Welcome back. So, the Cloud Security Alliance has just dropped some major new guidance on zero trust and operational resilience. And look, it's a huge step forward, but you have to ask, does it really go far enough? Today, we're going to put it to the test against Terry's Resilience by Default philosophy, and we're going to find a critical gap that, frankly, most organizations are still missing. Let's dive in.
Right from the very start, let's be absolutely crystal clear on the core idea we're talking about today. This slide, it says it all. While technology is of course essential, Terry's whole point is that true, lasting organizational resilience isn't something you can just buy or configure. It is a leadership and cultural obligation. And that fundamental shift in thinking is exactly what we're going to explore.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll give credit where it's due and look at where the CSA guidance really gets it right. Then we'll get to the heart of it and pinpoint that persistent industry gap it kind of exposes. After that, we'll talk about the leadership shift that's needed to fix it. And finally, we'll look beyond the technical diagrams to see where resilience is really built.
Right, so let's start with the positives, because the CSA has made a really significant contribution here. It's so important to recognize the areas where their guidance is a genuine, major step forward for the whole sector.
You know, it's clear there's a lot of common ground here. Terry really points out that the CSA rightly moves past those old, outdated ideas of simple business continuity. They've done a great job aligning with key global regulations, like Europe's DORA, and they correctly anchor everything to the business impact analysis, the BIA. But most importantly, they see that real resilience is about the entire ecosystem, not just what's inside your own four walls.
And this quote just nails it. This is straight from the guidance, and honestly, it's a bit of a game changer. For way too long, organizations have only focused on what they can directly control. So acknowledging that your resilience absolutely depends on your entire supply chain, that is a massive step in the right direction.
And look, this isn't just a minor detail, it's a fundamental shift in how we need to think. Understanding that risk and resilience are shared across all your critical third parties is absolutely essential in the world we live in today.
And you can see this thinking is getting real traction. This whole focus on third parties is so critical that it's actually the main theme for the upcoming Resilience Association Summit on Tuesday, the 9th of June. Terry's going to be there, and it just goes to show this issue is right at the forefront of the industry's mind right now.
Okay, so the guidance is aligned with regulators, it's technically pretty comprehensive, and it's forward-thinking on ecosystems. So that begs the question, right? If it's so strong, what are we even talking about? What's missing? Where's this persistent gap that Terry is so focused on?
And this brings us right to the core of the critique. You see, the gap isn't really in the technical details. It's in the fundamental framing of what resilience even is. The guidance, it stops just short of the real issue.
Here it is, plain and simple. The CSA guidance, for all its strengths, still frames resilience as a technical problem that you can solve with technical controls. Terry's argument is that this is fundamentally the wrong way to look at it. Resilience is a leadership discipline, first and foremost. Technology just enables it.
So what does that actually mean? Well, Terry points out that the guidance mentions executive ownership, but it doesn't embed it as a core, non-negotiable requirement. It talks about people, but it massively underplays the power of organizational culture. And it frames zero trust as an architecture diagram, not as a set of human behaviors. And that's the disconnect.
This quote from Terry says everything you need to know. You can have the best, most expensive technology in the world, but if your culture doesn't support the right behaviors, things like challenging assumptions or rewarding transparency, then those technical controls are going to fail when they're under pressure. Culture is the primary control.
So, how do we fix this? How do we close that gap? Well, this section is all about the solution. It requires a really necessary shift in our perspective. From seeing resilience as just a technical capability that we implement to truly understanding it as a leadership obligation that we own.
Let's just put these two viewpoints side by side because it makes the difference so clear. The CSA suggests that resilience is achieved through zero trust. Terry's perspective, zero trust is a great accelerator, but it's leadership that defines resilience. The CSA mentions leadership in a supporting role. For Terry, non-negotiable executive ownership is absolutely central. You can see the pattern here. It's a fundamental shift from a technical view to a leadership and cultural one.
And this really redefines the entire concept. Resilience stops being just an internal capability to keep the lights on. It becomes a tested, evidenced promise you make to everyone who depends on you. Your customers, the regulators, and even society as a whole. And believe me, that is a much, much higher bar to clear.
So let's bring all of this together.
If we want to truly build resilience, we have to look beyond the comfort of our architecture diagrams and our technical frameworks. We have to look at the very foundations of the organization itself.
This is the key takeaway. You've probably heard Terry say it before, but it bears repeating. If resilience isn't a priority, a non-negotiable obligation in the boardroom, it will never, ever be a reality in the server room or on the factory floor. It has to start at the very top.
So we come back to this image because it just perfectly encapsulates the entire shift we're talking about. It's about moving away from a world of technical principles and into a world defined by non-negotiable executive ownership, where your culture is your primary control and where resilience is a tested promise.
Because at the end of the day, where is resilience really built? It starts here. It's built in the boardroom, where the strategy is set and where accountability is truly defined.
It's forged in the day-to-day culture, which is what dictates how people actually make decisions when they are under intense, unbelievable pressure.
And ultimately, it's proven in the behaviors that we choose to reward. Things like transparency, challenging our own assumptions, and truly, genuinely learning from failure.
Ultimately, the gap between seeing resilience as a technical capability and a leadership obligation, well, that's a confidence gap. It's the difference between the confidence we assume we have from our diagrams and the confidence we can actually prove when things go wrong. So the real question for every leader watching this is, are you ready to close it?